The alien girl on the streets every night, the city of New Terra, went to sleep. But for one small alien girl, the night was never safe or peaceful. Her name was Lyra. She had soft blue skin, big shining eyes, and hair that looked almost silver. Under the moonlight, she was young, maybe 12 or 13 by human years. But she had seen more pain than most adults. Lyra walked slowly through the empty streets. She tried to keep her head down so people would not notice her. She wore an old brown cloak full of holes. Her feet were bare and dirty. She carried a small bag, her only treasure. Inside, she kept a broken toy, a thin blanket, and a single picture of her family, now lost forever. Most nights, Lyra searched for a safe place to sleep. She tried not to stay in the same spot too often. Some humans hated aliens. Others were just afraid. Sometimes she heard stories of aliens being taken away by the guards, never to return. Tonight, Lyra's eyes were heavy with sleep, but she kept walking. Her stomach made a soft growling sound. She had not eaten for 2 days. The shops were all closed. Even if they were open, Lyra had no money. She stopped near a small house with warm lights inside. The door had a little step, just high enough for her to sit on. She sat down, pulling her cloak around herself. She listened to the sounds coming from the windows, soft music, maybe a family talking. Lyra wished, just for a moment, that she could be inside with them. She wished someone would open the door and say, "Come in, you are safe here." But Lyra knew that was just a dream. As the wind blew harder, she looked up at the dark sky. Clouds moved slowly, hiding the stars. Rain started to fall, gentle at first, then heavier. Lyra pulled her blanket over her head, trying to keep dry. Her teeth began to chatter. She hugged her knees close to her chest. Suddenly, a loud noise made her jump. It was just a car passing by, but Lyra's heart pounded. She had to be careful. Sometimes, people came out at night and shouted at her to leave. Once, a group of teenage boys had thrown stones at her. She still had a small scar on her arm from that night. Lyra thought about her home planet. She remembered her mother's voice and her father's strong arms. But that was all gone now. The war had taken everything. She was alone on a world that was not her own. As she tried to sleep, Lyra heard footsteps. Someone was coming down the street. She tried to hide her face in her cloak. The footsteps stopped near her. She held her breath. It was an old woman. She looked down at Lyra and shook her head. "You again," the woman said, not unkindly, but not friendly either. "You can't stay here. Go away." The woman went inside, closing the door behind. Her Lyra did not move. She had nowhere else to go. The night grew colder. More rain fell. Lyra shivered. Her hands were numb, but she did not cry. She had learned not to cry, did not help. From inside the house, a man watched her through the window. His name was Daniel. He was human, and he had lived alone for many years. He had seen Lyra before, always on different doorsteps, always alone. Something about her reminded him of himself. Long ago, when he had no one, Daniel wondered, should I help her? What if it brings trouble? He knew that helping an alien could cause problems with the guards or even with his neighbors. But he also knew what it felt like to be left outside, hungry and afraid. Lyra tried to stay awake, but her eyes closed. In her dreams, she saw her family's faces. She heard laughter, felt warm hands, and tasted sweet food. But every time she woke up, there was only cold stone, wet rain, and darkness. Suddenly, Lyra heard a strange sound, a soft scratching at the end of the street. She opened her eyes wide and tried to see through the rain. Was it a stray animal? Or was it someone following her? Her heart beat faster. She remembered the bullies who sometimes came at night. Lyra pulled her bag closer. She was ready to run, if she had to, but she was so tired. Maybe this would be the night when something finally happened, something good, or something very, very bad. Inside the house, Daniel stood up. He looked at the door, then at the scared girl outside. He made a decision. He would not let her suffer. Not tonight. As Lyra closed her eyes again, the door behind her creaked open just a little. Warm light spilled out onto the cold stone step. Lyra turned, surprised and scared. Daniel stood in the doorway, silent for a moment. Would he send her away, like everyone else? Or would he do something no one had ever done before? The answer would change both their lives forever. Lyra blinked in the sudden light as Daniel's door creaked open. For a moment, she couldn't believe what was happening. She waited for him to shout or order her to leave. But Daniel just stood there, face half hidden in the warm glow. Eyes soft but tired. "Come inside," Daniel finally said, his voice low, as if he didn't fully trust himself. Lyra hesitated, every instinct telling her not to trust any human. Not even one with kind eyes. Still, the rain poured down, cold and sharp, and her small hands were shaking. With slow steps, Lyra crossed the doorway, her wet feet leaving tiny prints on the floor. Inside, the house felt huge and quiet. Daniel closed the door gently behind her. He didn't smile, but he didn't frown either. Lyra stood on the mat, unsure, afraid to move or touch anything. Daniel handed her a towel. "Dry off," he said, nodding toward a wooden chair. "You can sit." Lyra looked around. The walls were filled with strange pictures and old books. There was the soft ticking of a clock and the gentle hum of a small heater. It was warmer than anywhere she had slept in a long time. The smell of bread and soup drifted from the kitchen, making her mouth water. But before Lyra could relax, she noticed something, an old hollow picture on the table. It showed Daniel with another human, a woman and a young child. All of them were smiling. Lyra's heart tightened. Where were they now? Was Daniel really as alone as he seemed? While she dried herself, Daniel watched her closely. He remembered the first time he lost everything, how the world became cold, how he hated asking anyone for help. Now he was watching someone even more lost than he had ever been. A crash from outside broke the silence. Lyra jumped. Daniel went to the window and peered into the darkness. On the street, two shadowy figures moved, whispering in low voices. Lyra's fear grew. She recognized one, a big alien with rough skin, known in the area for bullying anyone weaker than him. The other was a human boy, always looking for trouble. They stopped, searching for something or someone. Daniel noticed Lyra's face go pale. He moved to block her from the window. "Stay here," he whispered. The men outside didn't see Daniel's house as they argued. One kicked over a trash can, cursing. The other shone a weak torch up and down the street, looking for a small figure. Lyra's heart thudded. She knew they were after her. Last week, they tried to steal her bag and had threatened her if they saw her again. Inside, Daniel picked up a small metal rod and locked the door. "You're safe in here," he said. But Lyra could see his hand shaking just a little. The men outside moved on, but not before marking Daniel's door with a sharp line of "Choke a secret" sign to others. Lyra saw it through the window. It meant outsiders' help here. Her secret was no longer safe. Daniel noticed the mark too. He frowned. "I'll wipe it off in the morning," he said, more to himself than to Lyra. Lyra wanted to thank him, but the words stuck in her throat. She had trusted people before, and every time it ended in pain. Daniel brought her a bowl of hot soup and a piece of bread. Lyra hesitated, then took a tiny sip. Warmth filled her body. "Why do you help me?" she whispered, her voice barely. More than a breath. Daniel sat across from her, silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Everyone deserves a little kindness, even if the world forgets it. As Lyra finished the soup, she looked around once more. For the first time in many nights, she felt hope. Maybe this house could be more than just shelter from the storm. Maybe, just maybe, it could be a home. But outside, the city was not sleeping. Shadows moved in the dark. Trouble was only beginning. Tonight, Lyra was not alone, but neither was Daniel. Now, they were both targets for the city's secrets and the cruel eyes watching every open door. Lyra woke up before sunrise, confused at first. She was warm. The blanket was soft, not thin and dirty like the one she carried. For a moment, she thought she was still dreaming. But then she saw Daniel sitting by the window, wide awake and staring into the gray morning. She moved quietly, not wanting to disturb him, but Daniel turned and gave a small nod. He looked tired, like he had not slept at all. Lyra tried to speak, but her throat felt tight. She wanted to say thank you, but the words seemed strange on her tongue. Daniel stood up, stretched his arms, and walked into the kitchen. "Are you hungry?" he asked, his voice flat but gentle. Lyra nodded quickly. He made her simple breakfast, just bread, a boiled egg, and warm tea. To Lyra, it tasted like a feast. While they ate, Daniel seemed distracted. He kept glancing at the door, as if expecting someone to knock. Lyra watched him carefully. She wondered what secrets Daniel was hiding. Why did he live alone in such a big house? And why did he help her when most humans didn't even look at her twice? Suddenly, Daniel spoke. "You can stay here, but you have to follow the rules," he said, his voice serious. "Never open the door for anyone. Never go near the windows at night. And never answer questions from strangers." Lyra nodded. She was used to hiding, but now she was curious. "Why?" she whispered. Daniel looked at her for a long time. "This city is not safe for you or for me. Years ago, I helped someone, just like you. The guards took them away. I couldn't stop it." He looked away, his face dark with old pain. Lyra felt a deep sadness. She wanted to ask more, but Daniel shook his head and started cleaning the table. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the house. Lyra froze. Someone was knocking on the door hard, impatient. Daniel motioned for her to hide. She crawled under the kitchen table, holding her breath. Daniel opened the door just a crack. 2 city guards stood outside. They wore black uniforms with shiny badges and sharp eyes. "We heard reports about an alien girl in this area," one guard said. "Have you seen anything strange?" Daniel's voice was calm. "No one comes to my door at night. I keep to myself." The guards looked past him, scanning the hallway. Lyra pressed herself tight against the wall, wishing she could disappear. One guard sniffed the air. "Smells like something strange in here," he said, wrinkling his nose. Daniel gave a short laugh. "I tried a new recipe. Didn't turn out well." The guards did not smile. One of them tried to push past Daniel, but he stood firm. "Do you have a warrant?" he asked. The guards hesitated, then shook their heads. "We'll be back," the taller one said, glaring. Daniel shut the door, locked it, and slid the metal bar into place. Lyra crawled out, shaking. For a while, neither of them spoke. The world outside seemed more dangerous than ever. But then Daniel knelt down beside her. "You're safe, for now," he whispered. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes wide. "Will they come back?" Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes, but we'll be ready next time." As the morning light grew brighter, Lyra helped Daniel clean up the house. She tried to smile, but her heart was heavy. Still, for the first time, she didn't feel completely alone. Daniel's secret passed, and his bravery to stand against the guards. gave her a new kind of hope that maybe, just maybe, together, they could fight against the darkness outside. But Lyra didn't know hidden deep in the walls of Daniel's house, there was another secret, one that could save them both, or destroy everything, and outside the mark on Daniel's door was still there, shining in the sun, calling danger closer with every passing hour. That afternoon, the city felt tense and quiet. Lyra tried to help Daniel with chores, but she could not relax. The mark outside the door haunted her thoughts. She kept glancing at the window, afraid every noise meant trouble. After lunch, Daniel showed her around the house. Some rooms were full of old boxes and forgotten things. One small door was locked tight. "Never open this door," Daniel said, serious. Lyra nodded, but curiosity burned inside her. Later, while Daniel rested, Lyra wandered the hallway. She touched the old walls and felt a strange bump behind a picture. She moved the frame and saw faint scratch marks like a code or message. Her heart beat faster. Carefully, she copied the marks onto a piece of paper from Daniel's desk. When Daniel woke up, Lyra showed him the paper. For a moment, he stared in shock. Then his face softened. "You have good eyes," he whispered. "This is an old code. I used it years ago with friends who helped people in danger. We called ourselves the doorkeepers." Lyra listened closely as Daniel explained. He had once hidden many lost aliens like her. Some were saved, some were not. "After the last one disappeared, I stopped," Daniel said sadly. "But maybe now it's time to start again." As evening came, Daniel took the paper and studied the code. Suddenly, he smiled for the first time since Lyra met him. "It's a message from someone I trusted," he said. "It means danger is near, but help can be found below." They hurried to the basement. Lyra had never been down. There it was dark, cold, and full of shadows. Daniel searched the floor, tapping on the stones. At last, he found a loose one. Underneath, hidden in dust, was a small silver box. Inside the box was an old radio, a folded map, and another coded message. Daniel read aloud, "If you find this, use channel 17 tonight. You are not alone." Lyra's eyes filled with hope. Someone out there was watching, someone wanted to help them, but there was little time. Night was falling, and from the window, Lyra saw two figures lurking across the street. The guards had returned. And now, they were not alone. They brought someone with them, someone short, with blue skin. Lyra gasped. It was another Aliena girl, just like her, but her face was hard and her eyes cold. "That's Mira," Lyra whispered, fear in her voice. "She works for the guards. She finds aliens who hide and betrays them." Daniel and Lyra knew they had to act fast. Daniel turned on the old radio and began sending a message in code. "Need help? House marked. In danger." Lyra stood close to Daniel. She wasn't just afraid for herself, now she was afraid for Daniel too. The man who once hid his kindness was risking everything for her. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the radio. "Help is on the way. Stay hidden. Watch the shadows." Lyra's heart pounded. There was hope, but also more danger than ever before. Outside, the guards and Myra closed in, watching Daniel's door, waiting for any sign. Inside, Daniel and Lyra waited, trusting in the message from the past and the promise of help from the secret doorkeepers. But would it come in time? Night fell heavy and silent on New Terra. Daniel and Lyra listened as footsteps circled the house above. Each thump on the floor made Lyra's heart jump. The radio in Daniel's hand buzzed with static, but no new messages came. Outside, Mira's cold eyes searched the windows and the guards whispered to each other, waiting for the right moment. Suddenly, a sharp knock rattled the front door. "Open up, city guards," a voice shouted. Daniel turned off the basement light. Key and Lyra hid in the shadows, not breathing. The knocking grew louder, more impatient. Myra's voice called out, "Lyra, I know you're in there. Don't make it harder for yourself." Lyra's legs shook, but Daniel whispered, "Trust me, stay silent. Help will come, but then crash." The front window shattered. Guards flooded inside, flashlights and weapons in hand. Daniel moved quickly, pushing a hidden lever. A crack appeared in the basement wall. "Hurry," he urged. Lyra slipped inside the narrow gap, Daniel following close behind. The wall closed. Just as boots thundered down the basement stairs. In total darkness, Lyra could only hear her own heartbeat. Daniel whispered, "Don't worry, there's a tunnel here." He found an old rope, tugged it, and a trapdoor opened beneath them. Cool air and the smell of earth rose up. They climbed down into the secret passage. The tunnel was small, lined with old bricks, and sloped down beneath the city. Daniel grabbed a flashlight from the wall and handed it to Lyra. "Lead the way," he said. For the first time, he was putting his life in her hands. As they crawled, Lyra heard voices above. Mira and the guards searched every room, angry and frustrated. But suddenly, Lyra stopped. She saw another message, scratched into the brick. "Follow the owl." She looked around. In the flashlight's beam, she spotted a tiny owl symbol carved into a stone on the left wall. She pressed it, and a hidden door swung open. They slipped through and found a larger chamber with old blankets, canned food, and more strange symbols on the walls. It was a safe room built by the doorkeepers long ago. Daniel sighed with relief, but Lyra stayed alert. Suddenly, the radio buzzed again. "Daniel, Lyra, this is Hope. Stay where you are. We're coming." The voice was strange, but strong and warm. Daniel smiled. They found us. We're not alone. But as they waited, Lyra heard movement behind the wall. Suddenly, Mira's voice echoed down the tunnel. "You can't hide forever, Lyra. You have something that belongs to us." Daniel's eyes narrowed. What does she mean? Shook her head, but deep down, she remembered the tiny silver pendant her mother gave her, hidden in her bag. It was no ordinary necklace. It held an old code, a map for escaping the city. Mira must have betrayed Lyra's secret to the guards in return for her own safety. Just then, a second voice rang out clear and full of courage. "Step away from the door." A secret panel slid open, and 3 figures stepped in. A tall human woman with a doorkeeper's badge, a young alien boy, and an old man with kind eyes. "We're here to help," said the woman. "But we must move now. The guards are breaking through." Lyra felt a rush of hope and fear. Daniel grabbed her hand, and together, with their new allies, they hurried deeper into the tunnels toward a place neither of them had ever seen, carrying their last hope in a silver pendant. Above them, the house was no longer safe. The city had become a maze of shadows and secrets. But for the first time, Lyra was not running alone. She had Daniel, she had the doorkeepers, and she was ready to fight for her future. The tunnels twisted beneath New Terra like the veins of some ancient giant. Lyra, Daniel, and their new friends hurried deeper, their footsteps soft but their hearts pounding. The woman called Hope led the way, her flashlight moving over secret signs on the walls. Numbers, owls, all made by the doorkeepers many. Years before, Daniel looked down at Lyra's small hands, gripping the silver pendant tightly. The old man, breathing hard, pointed at it. "That's the key," he said gently. "Your mother was one of us, a doorkeeper. That pendant is a map. With it, we can open the final safe door." Lyra was stunned. She had always thought it was just a memory of her lost family, not something powerful. Her hands shook as she turned, dependent over, searching for a clue. Suddenly, the young alien boy gasped. "Listen!" Above them, boots thundered. Guards were searching the tunnels. Mira's voice rang out, full of anger and fear. "If you don't come out, I'll seal these tunnels forever." Hope took a deep breath. "We can't turn back. Lyra, can you trust us?" Lyra looked at Daniel, then at the new doorkeepers. She nodded. "What do I do?" Hope showed Lyra how to open the pendant. Inside was a tiny chip, smaller than a fingernail, and a pattern of stars. The old man placed the chip into a hidden slot in the tunnel wall. With a soft beep, a secret door slid open, revealing a narrow stone bridge over a deep pit. On the other side was a thick metal door, marked with the doorkeeper's symbol, a circle with an open hand. But there was no time to celebrate. Behind them, shouts echoed down the passage. Guards and Mira had found their trail. Flashlights flickered in the darkness, coming closer. Daniel picked up a heavy pipe. "I'll hold them off," he said. "Go no," Lyra cried. She refused to leave Daniel behind, but Hope urged her forward. "The future is in your hands. Go, Lyra. Only you can open the safe room." With tears in her eyes, Lyra dashed across the stone bridge. The pendant's chip opened the metal door. Inside was a large, hidden room full of food, beds, and old tech, everything they needed to hide and start again. But just as Lyra and the others rushed in, Myra's face appeared on the other side. She threw a heavy lever. The bridge began to crack and fall. Daniel jumped across at the last second, barely. Grabbing Lyra's hand, he almost slipped into the darkness, but Lyra pulled with all her strength, and Hope grabbed Daniel's other arm. Together, they dragged him to safety. The door closed with a heavy clang. Locking out the guards and Mira, they were safe for now. Lyra turned to Daniel, breathing hard. "You didn't let go." Daniel smiled through his exhaustion. "I promised. I wouldn't. Not ever." As everyone caught their breath, the old man pointed at the far wall, where more codes and maps glowed in the soft light. "With this room, we can help more people. Lyra, you have given us hope again." Lyra, once alone on the streets, now stood among friends trusted, important, and ready to protect others. But outside, the city was changing. The guards would not give up. Mira would try again. And Lyra knew her journey wasn't over. Now, it was only beginning. The secret room was quiet, safe, and warm. For the first time in her life, Lyra slept deeply, no fear, no hunger, just the gentle sound of new friends breathing nearby. Daniel, Hope, the old man, and the young boy, all rested together, safe from the city's dangers outside, but the world above was changing. The mark on Daniel's door, the sign for outsiders' help, had started to glow faintly at night. Powered by hidden doorkeepers' tech, it became a silent call for all who were lost and hunted. More and more footsteps began to appear. In the alleys at night, mothers with children, wounded aliens, lonely runaways, and even humans who wanted something better. Lyra woke before the others. She moved quietly to the far wall, where maps and codes glowed in the dim light. She traced her finger along the paths, the secret ways out, the places of safety, the homes built by kindness. She realized something. Every path began with one small act of courage. Daniel had opened his door. Lyra had trusted him. Together, they had started something bigger than fear. When Daniel woke up, he found Lyra sitting with the old man, learning how to use the radio and write coded messages. She was smiling, her eyes bright, her voice clear. The little girl who once slept in the rain was gone. In her place was someone strong and hopeful. That day, more people arrived at the safe room's hidden entrance. Each time, Lyra and Daniel opened the door, offering shelter and food. The doorkeepers' network grew again, and the secret marks spread across the city, lighting the way for the lost. Outside, the guards and Myra grew angrier. but their power faded as more humans joined the cause. Daniel's neighbors, once silent or afraid, began to quietly help, leaving food, blankets, and coded signs. The city was still dangerous, but hope moved quietly in the shadows. Stronger with each new friend. One night, as rain fell softly on New Terra, Lyra stood at the secret door. A little alien girl, wet and shivering, waited on the other side. Lyra remembered her own first night, cold and alone. She knelt down and said, "Come inside. You're safe now." The little girl's eyes filled with tears, not from sadness, but relief. Daniel put his hand on Lyra's shoulder. "You've given others what you've never had," he said. "You turned my home into a new beginning." Lyra looked around at her. New family, humans and aliens, young and old, strong and scared. She finally understood. A real home was not walls or a roof. A real home was the people who opened their doors, shared their food, and stood together when the world said no. That night, the door stayed open for a long time, and laughter filled the hidden room. Lyra was no longer the alien girl on the street. She was the heart of a new family. It's a sign of hope for all who needed one. And somewhere, in every dark corner of New Terra, another lost soul looked for a light, dreaming that one day someone would open the door and say, "Come inside." Forever,